Welcome back to the Deep Dive. So glad you could join us again as we, crack open that knowledge vault.
And really try to give you the distilled insights you need, the ones that help you move forward and move forward fast.
Okay, let's unpack this. For decades, the story of success, whether it's in business or just life, has been dominated by this almost sacred equation, right?
Right. It's brilliant ideas plus relentless hard work.
Exactly. Multiplied by a healthy mountain of cash. That's the formula we're all taught.
It's the narrative.
But what if that whole equation is, fundamentally incomplete? What if the single most powerful ingredient, the one we consistently underestimate, is something much simpler, more human?
Something more strategic even.
We are talking about the quality of your relationships.
It really is the hidden variable, the one that I think determines the velocity of your success. People spend just extraordinary amount of time and energy trying to optimize their job title, get better financial paperwork, perfect their product.
All the tangible stuff.
All the tangible stuff. And when someone becomes really successful, what's the first thing we ask?
What do you do? Or where do you work?
Every time. But the truly insightful question, the one that gives you a much better prediction of future success, is simply, what network are you building? The whole world shifts when you stop seeing a network as a nice side benefit.
Like a soft skill?
Exactly. And you start recognizing it as the absolute paramount necessity for any kind of rapid, sustained, and exponential growth, whether that's investors or clients or even just high-performing employees.
So our mission today is really to move beyond that soft concept of networking. Mm-hmm. We need to recognize relationships not just as these comforting emotional ties, but as strategic, even quantifiable assets.
Yes.
We're going to try to move past the why they matter, which, frankly, I think a lot of people already get on some level, and dive really deep into the how. We'll explore the proven methods, some of which are pretty counterintuitive, for intentionally building and strategically nurturing these connections.
This is all about making the human element a core part of your strategic blueprint, not an afterthought.
Okay, so before we even think about putting a dollar sign on any of this, or a return metric, we have to start at the bedrock, the absolute core human requirement for belonging.
It's foundational. All the academic studies in human behavior, they all confirm that relationships are like the very first pillars of human life. They satisfy this essential evolutionary and psychological need.
A sense of belonging.
A profound sense of belonging and psychological security. When those connections are solid, you move through the world differently. You feel anchored, you feel supported. You need deep down that you are not alone.
And that security isn't just a nice feeling to have, is it? It's not a luxury.
Oh, not at all. It's the operating system for high performance. I mean, think about Maslow's hierarchy. Where does he put belonging and love?
Right after the absolute basics like food, water, and safety.
Exactly. Squarely after the physiological and safety needs. And if those belonging needs aren't met, your cognitive bandwidth, your ability to think clearly, is constantly being eaten up by anxiety.
So if we were to make a checklist for the learner listening to this, someone looking for measurable personal improvement, what are the specific benefits?
Well, they impact everything, from your daily executive function all the way to your long-term physical health.
Let's start with mental health, because that seems like the most immediate, the most visceral impact.
It is. Strong, stable relationships act as a buffer. They actively reduce the stress and pressure we all face every day. Study after study has shown that social connection is a key moderator against cortisol spikes, the stress hormone.
So just the act of talking to someone can literally change your body's chemistry.
Yes. The simple act of sharing. It doesn't matter if you're talking through a huge business problem or celebrating a tiny personal win. That act of sharing is a form of internal comfort. It provides this essential emotional recalibration.
And it stops the small things from snowballing.
That's a perfect way to put it. It prevents those small daily setbacks from compounding into what feels like an overwhelming crisis.
And when you have that stability, that mental foundation, it opens you up to another huge benefit, which is knowledge expansion.
Right, because that stability allows for accelerated growth.
Yeah.
Look, no single person, I don't care how much of an expert they are, possesses all the necessary knowledge for anything complex. It's impossible.
So you have to borrow from others' experiences.
You have to. By intentionally connecting with a diverse array of people from different industries, different countries, different educational backgrounds, you just exponentially widen your circle of knowledge and experience.
You're basically getting a shortcut. You're learning from their mistakes.
It's the ultimate shortcut. You gain the advantage of learning from all these varied perspectives, these innovative ideas, and crucially, the trials and errors of other people without having to go through them yourself.
That's like intellectual arbitrage.
That's a great term for it. You are gaining massive efficiency in your own learning curve.
And this brings up the idea of weak ties, which I find fascinating. It's so often overlooked. We tend to focus all our energy on our close friends, our strong ties.
The people who are already in our orbit.
Exactly. They mostly know what we know. They know the people we know. But researchers, like Mark Granovetter, they found that it's the weak ties, those casual acquaintances, the connections on the periphery, who are often the primary source of novel information.
Job opportunities.
Entirely new perspectives you would never have encountered otherwise.
It completely flips the script on where you should be spending your networking energy, doesn't it?
It really does.
Your strong ties, they give you emotional stability. But your weak ties, they give you informational leverage.
And when you have both of those, stability and leverage, you get this massive confidence boost.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, self-doubt plagues even the highest achievers. We all deal with it. But having that mutual support and encouragement from a diverse network, it dramatically increases your self-belief, your belief in your own abilities and your inherent value.
When someone you respect tells you you're on the right path.
It's rocket fuel. When others, especially people you admire, express faith in what you're doing, it gives you the conviction to take bigger, more calculated risks. And those are the risks that are necessary for any true advancement.
And let's not forget character development.
Yeah.
I mean, dealing with all these different personalities, the demanding client, the difficult mentor, the quirky colleague, it forces your communication skills to evolve.
It really does. And this isn't just about sounding smart in a meeting. It's about active listening. It's about clear expression, conflict resolution.
And really trying to understand what's motivating the other person, what's underneath what they're saying.
Yes, it fosters genuine empathy and a deep respect for feelings and viewpoints that are not your own. And that is an absolutely critical trait for anyone in any kind of leadership position.
Ultimately, all of this just leads to a richer life enrichment.
I think so. In the constant rush for professional achievement, it's so easy to forget that it's the shared laughter, the quiet memories, the experiences we build with others that give life its deepest meaning.
All of the studies show it. High material wealth without strong social bonds. It just doesn't correlate with long-term happiness.
Not at all. These human moments, they increase our overall satisfaction far beyond what any material gain can offer on its own.
And if we connect all this to the bigger picture, especially in those moments of, existential stress or a major professional failure.
That's when you really see their value.
Right. Strong, supportive relationships are the ultimate crisis management tool. They're absolutely crucial for absorbing the shock of a setback.
They provide the psychological and moral support you need to persevere, to maintain your equilibrium when everything feels like it's falling apart.
They really do. They give us this vital sense of appreciation and respect, a feeling that our existence, our work, our efforts, that they matter in the lives of other people.
And they reinforce those core ethical values we all need, like loyalty, honesty, cooperation. You have to actively practice them within these bonds.
And it strengthens emotional intelligence. You're not just reading a book about it, you're living it. You're learning to manage your own reactions while trying to interpret the complex emotions of others.
Exactly. These connections, they literally improve the overall quality of life. They make it more resilient, more balanced, and frankly, more humane.
So we've laid out the deep psychological payoff. It's clear. But let's be pragmatic now. How does this core human need translate directly onto a business ledger?
Yeah, the practical application.
We so often fall for what you could call the money myth. We believe that financial capital just solves everything, especially if you're in a startup or trying to expand a business. We think if we can just secure enough funding,
the product will magically sell itself. And that assumption is just profoundly dangerous. Money by itself is inert. It does nothing without people to deploy it. Success requires so much more than just financial capital. It needs a robust, dynamic, supportive network of all kinds of stakeholders.
you mean like clients who actually buy?
And suppliers who deliver on time, external experts you can call on, and of course, investors who don't just give you money, but who believe in you. Without those human relationships, even the most brilliant idea sitting on a mountain of cash will quickly crumble under real-world pressure.
This brings us to a really crucial concept. I think every learner prepping for any kind of strategic planning needs to internalize this. We are all deeply familiar with ROI, return on investment.
Of course. That's the traditional metric, the calculation of the return on your financial capital. You invest $100,000 in a marketing campaign, and nets you $50,000 in profit.
Your ROI is 50%.
Simple. It's purely quantitative. It's a financial metric. It's absolutely necessary for survival. I'm not discounting that. But it is insufficient for sustained growth.
Okay, and this is where modern business thinking introduces a metric that tries to quantify that human element we were just talking about.
Yes. It's called the return on relationships, or ROR.
OR.
It's a vital strategic metric that the most successful companies now use to understand the non-financial and the long-term financial rewards that come specifically from having strong customer and stakeholder connections. It's the metric that captures trust, loyalty, and advocacy.
But how do you measure something that sounds so fuzzy? How do businesses actually measure ROR in practice?
Well, they're not just talking about it anymore, they're finding tangible ways to do it. The most immediate, the most observable indicator is just the sheer volume of new business that's generated through referrals and word of mouth.
So business that you didn't directly pay for with advertising.
Precisely. And crucially, this is the business that continues to flow in and even scale when you intentionally pause your heavy, expensive marketing campaigns, your standard ROI spend. If you stop advertising for a month and your sales velocity stays high, that's ROR at work.
But that seems hard to filter out, though. How can you be sure you're distinguishing between, say, residual brand recognition and a pure relationship-driven referral?
That's a fantastic, really probing question, and it's why measuring ROR has had to become more sophisticated. Companies use specific techniques now.
Like what?
Well, one is the Net Promoter Score, the NPS. It asks that one simple question: how likely are you to recommend our service to a friend or colleague? A high NPS is a very strong ROR indicator.
Okay, that makes sense.
Another one is tracking customer lifetime value, or CLV. The data shows that a client who was acquired through a referral generally has a 16% higher lifetime value than a client you got through standard advertising.
Why is that?
Because the relationship started with inherent trust. It was pre-validated by someone they already trust. So high ROR translates directly into lower customer acquisition costs and higher long-term value.
So it really isn't just about the quality of the product anymore. It's about the quality of the entire experience surrounding it.
That's it, exactly. Companies are realizing their relationship with the client isn't just about handing over a flawless product, it's about providing an excellent customer experience. I mean, think of companies like Zappos or Nordstrom.
Their entire reputation is built on that.
It's built on relationship velocity, not just product specs. That outstanding experience motivates clients to go out and share detailed, positive stories about the product or service within their own trusted circles, their family, friends, professional community. This viral sharing, this earned advocacy, that is the truest and cleanest reflection of a high ROR.
And the long-term impact of that, I imagine, is what builds generational wealth and real corporate longevity.
It contributes directly to sustained wealth and profits because it drives incredible loyalty. A loyal customer is not price sensitive, they are trust sensitive.
That's a key distinction.
It is. The companies that are winning today understand that ROR translates into sales velocity, it allows for premium pricing, and it guarantees longevity. Why? Because they have a moat built not just of patents, but of deeply ingrained customer trust.
So let's shift focus from customers to capital for a moment. Relationships play this undeniably critical role in securing that initial funding, right? We always hear these stories about a company with perfect financial paperwork getting turned down because the investor just got a bad feeling.
That bad feeling is everything. Relationships greatly strengthen your position when you're seeking loans or investments. While strong financials are absolutely necessary, you can't just bypass due diligence. They are rarely sufficient on their own.
And this dynamic is amplified in certain situations.
Profoundly amplified, especially when you're seeking investment from individual angel investors or VCs in the earliest seed stages, as opposed to, a later stage large institutional firm.
Why is that distinction with angel investors so critical? What's different there?
Well, for an individual angel investor, trust in the project leader is paramount. It has to be. They're operating with much higher personal risk. It's often their own wealth on the line. They are betting on the person, not just the spreadsheet model.
Because in those early stages, the spreadsheet is mostly guesswork anyway.
It's speculative. The financials are a forecast, but the competence and the character of the founder, that's verifiable. A well-built relationship established over weeks or months, and that demonstrated trust often completely outweighs a perfect financial pitch alone. Many sources suggest that in seed funding, the relationship and trust can be 60% of the decision matrix.
So the key takeaway here is that the transaction follows the trust. It doesn't work the other way around.
It absolutely is a mutual benefit scenario founded on that human connection. The project owners desperately seek funding, yes, but investors have capital they don't want sitting idle. They're desperately seeking experienced, competent, and most importantly, trustworthy individuals who they believe will maximize their capital's potential.
Everyone is searching for the right human connection to advance their goals.
Exactly. And the investor will often assume higher competence from a person they already trust. It's a cognitive bias, but a powerful one.
That strong foundation of trust leads us directly into the actionable strategy. Because this isn't about just passively waiting for trust to appear. It requires intentional, disciplined effort.
It does.
I want to start this section with a really painful but common lesson. I was reading about an entrepreneur who, reflecting on his early business failures, had this huge realization. His core belief that sheer solitary effort and just having the technical skills were enough was completely wrong.
Tough pill to swallow.
A very tough pill. He discovered that relationships were absolutely essential, not just for thriving, but for just plain navigating the unforgiving, often arbitrary world of business survival.
And that realization is the genesis of all these strategic rules. It's the moment you recognize you have to be as proactive in managing your network as you are in managing your finances.
Okay, so let's get into rule one, which for many people is the most psychologically challenging. Leave the comfort zone.
This is the brutal truth of it. Your current immediate relationships, your longtime friends, your current colleagues, your immediate circle, they define your current level of income, your current intellectual ceiling, and your current level of success.
So if you're happy where you are, no changes are needed.
Exactly. If you are entirely satisfied with your current level, then maintaining your current connections is perfectly sufficient. But
if you possess that drive to achieve something new, something significant, or to move into a completely new league of opportunity, the math just demands a change in behavior.
it does. You must intentionally and strategically seek connections outside your immediate circle of acquaintance and comfort. This is so critical because every new relationship, particularly those that feel a little bit outside your routine or even slightly intimidating, hold potential opportunities, informational, financial, developmental, that you cannot possibly foresee from where you're standing right now.
It's uncomfortable, though. It's psychologically difficult to break that routine.
It's very uncomfortable initially, but that effort, that discomfort, is the literal price of entry into a new league.
That proactive approach reminds me of that powerful anecdote you hear sometimes about the successful individual who, as a thought experiment, is theoretically stripped of all his assets. He's given just $100 and a used truck.
Yes.
His top priority, right after getting basic shelter, isn't to go find a minimum wage job. It's to immediately start cultivating connections.
That's a perfect illustration of network valuation. His stated goal was to get his valuation back to $1 million in 90 days. So what does he do? He spends his mornings going to the local high-end fitness center or specialized hobby meetups. He sets a daily measurable goal of acquiring 10 new contacts.
Not just casual friends, strategic connections.
Strategic connections.
But why the gym, specifically?
Because he understood the concept of proximal networking. He wasn't looking for just anyone. He was looking for high-value individuals, people who had the drive, the discipline, and the disposable income to be at that location at that time.
So the location acts as a filter.
A powerful filter. A high-end gym or a specialized conference implies shared characteristics: discipline, financial stability, a certain level of interest. He understood that relationships were the ultimate accelerator to rebuild his wealth far, far quicker than solitary labor ever could.
That level of discipline leads us perfectly to Rule 2, which I think provides a necessary strategic guardrail for this whole process. Trust before opportunity.
Yes, this is crucial. Every single new relationship you pursue brings with it potential opportunities. That's why we're even talking about this. But the critical trap, the one that immediately labels you as transactional, is making the opportunity the primary or explicit driver for initiating contact.
So if your very first conversation is basically your pitch, you've probably already failed.
You've definitely failed. You have to focus the entirety of your initial effort on building mutual trust and respect first. If the immediate opportunity is your only goal, people will perceive that instantly. They'll see it as transactional, manipulative, or, as you might say, hackneyed.
They feel used.
They feel used, and the relationship will never mature past that initial low-value stage. You have to think of trust as the soil and opportunity as the fruit that grows from it. Opportunities will inevitably materialize, maybe in 3 months, maybe in 10 years, but the foundation has to be that deep reciprocal trust.
If you lead with trust, the opportunities will follow.
Always, and often from completely unexpected directions.
That makes profound strategic sense, but let me play devil's advocate for a second. Isn't there a risk that focusing so much on trust could delay necessary immediate tactical opportunities, especially for, say, a cash-strapped entrepreneur who needs a deal now?
That's a fair question, but I'd argue that delay is a necessary short-term cost for achieving long-term compounding interest. Think about the concept of social currency.
Okay.
If you build genuine trust with one person, you gain access to their entire network of people you don't even know yet, because that person will vouch for you. They will extend their trust to you. If you lead with opportunity and it feels transactional, you burn that one bridge and you lose access to their entire network forever.
The potential upside of the one deal isn't worth the downside of losing the whole network.
The short-term tactical gain is rarely worth that long-term systemic loss. Trust accelerates long-term growth. Opportunism, in the end, decelerates it.
That sets us up perfectly for Rule 3, which is really the cornerstone of making these relationships sustainable. Give what you expect to receive.
Relationships are not a resource to be consumed. They are an ecosystem, and they're built on reciprocal exchange, a continuous, healthy cycle of give and take.
So if you're always asking for things,
if you are consistently seeking new information, asking for introductions, looking for innovative ideas, or just seeking emotional support from a connection, you must be actively offering that same level of support, information, or time back to the other party. It has to be a two-way street.
The banking analogy is probably the best way to visualize this.
It is. Treat every single important relationship exactly like a bank account. An account that requires substantial, consistent deposits to be able to safely sustain withdrawals.
And the deposits are your time, your knowledge.
Your time, your specific knowledge, an introduction to someone you know who could be valuable to them, your moral support during a tough time. Those are the deposits. The withdrawals are the benefits you receive. The advice, the favors, the connections, the emotional comfort.
And if the account gets overdrawn,
If you are constantly making withdrawals, always taking advice, always asking for favors, without consistently and meaningfully making deposits, you will quickly bankrupt that relationship. The currency of trust will be spent, and often with interest, meaning it's harder to earn back.
And finally, that idea of continuous investment leads us to Rule 4, which is about managing our most precious finite resource, our time. It's about prioritizing key relationships.
This is such a common and highly inefficient mistake. People treat all 500 people in their network with equal priority, distributing their limited time evenly across the board.
A scattergun approach.
It is. And it ensures you have a network that's a mile wide and an inch deep. You need acute discernment. You need a strategic framework. Some relationships are intrinsically high investment because of their immense potential for long-term benefit.
And that benefit isn't always financial.
Not at all. It could be financial, intellectual, happiness-related, or a relationship that acts as a gateway to other exponentially more important connections.
So how does the learner listening right now distinguish between a high-investment relationship and just a maintenance-level connection?
It requires assessing value, but in an expansive way. I often recommend a tiered relationship management model. Tier 1 is your high investment tier. These relationships require intense, frequent, proactive engagement, maybe weekly or bi-weekly contact.
And who's in that tier?
Your key business partners, your most important mentors, your closest family members, the people who provide foundational support or strategic direction. The value is often intellectual. They're the ones who challenge your assumptions, provide critical knowledge, or hold access to a network that defines your entire industry.
And Tier 2?
Tier 2 requires consistent quality maintenance, maybe monthly or quarterly check-ins. These are important colleagues, key clients, or those specific weak ties that provide opportunities and novel information. You invest your time proportionally.
So it's about investing that time based on strategic importance and long-term value, and always remembering that value is not just measured in dollars.
Absolutely. Think about your personal life. Time spent with your family is a high investment that returns foundational happiness and stability. In business, spending time with a key strategic partner who might not yield an immediate profit but is intellectually sharp or holds access to a critical scientific network, that is a high RRR investment.
It's the difference between having an Excel spreadsheet mentality, where you only see tasks and deadlines.
Right, and recognizing that your team members and employees are connections that represent moving wealth and opportunity based on their own experience and networks, and treating them accordingly.
We've laid out this ideal path, but in reality, there are significant, deeply ingrained obstacles that stop most of us from ever implementing these rules.
There are.
And the first major one in our modern world has to be the social media illusion. We're surrounded by tool screens, platforms, feeds that give us the illusion of emotional and social fulfillment without requiring the actual effort of a true, vulnerable connection.
And this technological dependence has created what I call the paradox of isolation. It's never been more acute. We are globally connected 24/7, yet all the research shows that loneliness and social isolation are at epidemic levels.
So we're more connected but more alone.
Exactly. So many people struggle profoundly to form new, effective, real-world connections because they are physically or emotionally isolated. They're constantly tethered to a screen, prioritizing their curated online life over the messy reality of in-person interaction.
We saw this paradox just explode during the mandatory isolation of the pandemic, didn't we? That period acted like a powerful social catalyst.
It really did. For many families who were forced to spend consistent, deep time together, they truly connected for the first time. They discovered shared interests and built bonds that went way beyond surface-level logistics.
But on the other hand,
we saw so many relationships completely collapse. When that same consistent, true interaction was forced upon them, it revealed a fundamental, unbridgeable incompatibility. They realized they had only ever related to each other superficially.
the key insight there is that genuine connection requires real communication. And that's time-intensive. It's often messy,
It means sharing physical time, engaging in deep dialogue, and getting to know a person vulnerably, not just through their carefully curated online profile. It demands participating in the full give and take of a conversation, sharing private details, accepting flaws, and collaboratively building that deep sense of mutual security.
Okay, so if we accept that we have to leave the comfort zone, that we need real communication, what is the single biggest psychological barrier that prevents us from taking that first difficult step to initiate contact?
Barrier 1, the fear of rejection. This is a massive, often crippling obstacle. It prevents people from actively building their strategic network. People avoid initiating contact, asking a successful colleague for coffee, suggesting a professional partnership, inviting someone new to a hobby group.
Why?
Because they anticipate and fear being denied outright. They fear feeling publicly rejected or appearing weird or inappropriate for even asking.
And this fear, it manifests in very distinct self-sabotaging behaviors. The learner can probably use these as a sort of diagnostic tool to check themselves.
Yes, there are 4 major warning signs that are directly tied to a fear of rejection. The first one is being a constant people pleaser.
What does that look like?
It means you always agree to things to avoid any potential confrontation or disappointment, even if it severely compromises your own needs, your plans, or your core values. You're sacrificing your authenticity just for some temporary external harmony.
Okay, what's the second set?
The second is a willingness to accept or maintain toxic relationships. This is where you stay in a relationship, one that is utterly devoid of any mutual joy, respect, or positive return, simply because you'd rather do that than face the potential rejection or profound discomfort of asserting your boundaries and leaving.
The third sign is finding it pathologically difficult to say no.
Yes. You agree to requests even when they actively conflict with your highest personal priorities or cause you significant self-harm financially, mentally, or physically. You do this because the thought of saying no risks disappointing or alienating the other person, which your brain interprets as a form of rejection.
And finally, there's the fear of expressing your genuine feelings or opinions.
Right. You keep your true self, your authentic values, your deepest goals hidden. You're afraid that if you express your individuality, the other person will fundamentally reject you or withdraw their validation.
But the good news here is that this fear is purely psychological. It can be systematically managed and overcome.
It can. We have to reframe the concept of rejection itself. Rejection is not a personal indictment of your worth. It is simply neutral feedback. It indicates that the person or group you approached is currently not compatible with your values, your needs, or their own capacity.
So it's actually saving you time.
It's saving you valuable time and redirecting your effort. And the path to overcoming it is simple. Though it is demanding, it's practice. Practice taking consistent, low-stakes initiative. The repeated, minor exposure to refusal builds up a psychological immunity and it strengthens your character, allowing you to move on efficiently and find better-suited, high-rower connections.
Okay, so we've learned we have to overcome that fear of rejection and step outside our comfort zone. But Rule 5, which is curation, reminds us that just getting a sheer quantity of contacts is meaningless. We have to rigorously filter our network.
Exactly. Not all connections are beneficial. They are either fruitful or they're fruitless, and we must become highly selective. You want to prioritize deep compatibility.
How do you define that?
Seeking out people who demonstrably share your core values, your vision, your ethical framework, your general worldview. And you must actively avoid or minimize your engagement with those whose values are completely alienating, or, more commonly, those who actively drain your energy, emotionally, mentally, or financially.
We should probably define those dangers clearly. We're not just talking about normal conflict here, but relationships that are devoid of any mutual respect or joy.
Right. The sources identify a few specific psychological profiles of toxic people that we should minimize contact with. First, there's the ungrateful or cynical person. This is someone who fundamentally lacks principles and never acknowledges or appreciates the support, effort, or resources they receive from you.
They just feel entitled to it.
They view your generosity as their due.
And the second type is often much more insidious, I think, because they can mask their toxicity with a kind of conditional generosity.
That is the most damaging type. The conditionally generous or reproachful giver. Sometimes this has been called the scorekeeper. This is the individual who constantly, whether it's explicitly or implicitly, reminds you of services, favors, or gifts they've given you in the past.
And they use that as leverage.
They use that past generosity as leverage, often expecting an exponentially greater return or just holding it over you like a debt. They turn every good deed into a transactional debt, and that destroys any possibility of an authentic connection.
And a third danger, the one that slowly erodes your view of the world and yourself.
The person who constantly devalues others or consistently speaks ill of people who aren't present. This behavior signals a deep, deep lack of loyalty and respect.
The logic being if they're doing it to them.
If they are willing to speak negatively about their other friends or colleagues to you, you can operate under the near certainty that they are doing the exact same thing about you to others. These relationships are a massive drain on your mental energy, and they fundamentally corrode trust. They offer zero long-term ROR.
So turning the tables, if we want to attract and retain these high-value, high-integrity relationships, we have to implement Rule 6, the value proposition. The best, most reliable way to attract strong connections is to focus intensely on making yourself indispensable and valuable.
You have to focus on becoming high value.
Wow.
And this is an ongoing project. It means developing skills, expertise, specialized knowledge, and unique specializations that other people naturally need or admire or actively seek out.
So when you're genuinely competent, people are drawn to you.
Organically drawn to you. They are exponentially more likely to accept your initiatives and your invitations. You move from a position of chasing opportunities to having opportunities chase you.
And this often starts with finding your tribe, so to speak, through shared mutual engagement, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We are just wired to bond over shared activities, connect with people through mutual interests. It could be hobbies, niche sports, the arts, tech development groups, specialized business organizations. Sharing activities like running together, taking a training workshop, or collaborating on a non-work creative project can spark innovative business ideas and open totally unforeseen professional doors.
That brings to mind the perfect illustration of how a shared interest can overcome even initial personality friction.
You're thinking of the founders of Google.
Exactly.
Yes, the public accounts all indicate that Sergey Brin and Larry Page became professional partners despite not initially liking each other when they first met at university.
So what changed?
Their enduring partnership was forged because they shared these deep, complex, and valuable technical interests. Their intellectual value proposition to each other was simply irresistible. It overcame any initial personality clashes. Shared strategic passion overcomes almost everything else.
So to wrap this whole strategy section up, what are the most actionable steps a learner can take right now to immediately implement this power of initiative?
Start small, but you have to start now. Be the one who introduces yourself, especially to people you admire or those who are clearly outside your immediate network. That willingness to approach others, even if only 1 or 2 out of 10 attempts are successful, is the critical engine for building a meaningful network.
So don't wait for permission or the perfect moment.
Never. A simple, non-awkward script for a colleague you admire could be something like, "Hey, I've been so impressed with your work on the X project. Would you be open to grabbing a quick coffee next Tuesday? I'd love to hear your insights on this one specific challenge."
Keep it concise, focused, and respectful of their time.
Exactly. The second step is investing in the actual mechanism for connection. Develop communication skills.
If you struggle to start or maintain conversations, you have to work on it.
You must dedicate time and resources to improving this skill set. Effective communication is the grease in the relationship machine. And it's more than just speaking well. It's knowing precisely when to speak and when to listen actively and validate the other person's input. It's having a broad vocabulary to handle complex topics and understanding nonverbal cues.
Reading widely helps with that.
Reading widely is a fantastic, accessible way to develop your linguistic repertoire. It makes you a more knowledgeable, more engaging, and more memorable conversationalist.
And finally, a reminder of that strategic mindset from Section 3. Shifts your focus from just task completion to overall strategy. Be a contributor.
Yes. Go beyond merely completing your assigned tasks. Avoid that Excel spreadsheet mentality where you only see inputs and outputs. Recognize that your team members, your clients, your suppliers, they're all connections that represent moving wealth, opportunities, and specialized expertise based on their unique networks and experience.
See people for the holistic network they bring,
not just the job function they perform, and contribute value to that network. Only by doing that can you truly leverage the long-term return on relationships.
So what does this all mean? We've reached the strategic conclusion here that relationships they're far from a soft skill. They're not a secondary consideration in the pursuit of success.
They're a critical discipline strategy
for sustainable exponential growth. Success is not just about accumulating financial capital or perfecting a technical skill, but overwhelmingly about the quality, the depth, and the deliberate curation of the social networks you build and maintain.
Let's review the 4 core actionable takeaways from this deep dive, the things you can put into practice immediately. First, remember the fundamental law of RRR. Prioritize trust over immediate transactional gains.
The long-term transaction always follows the foundation of trust.
Always. Second, you must practice radical reciprocity. Internalize that banking analogy. You have to consistently and intentionally deposit value before you can expect to receive significant benefit.
Third, actively seek out connections outside your current comfort zone. You have to recognize that discomfort is the necessary price of entry into a new league of success and opportunity.
And fourth, rigorously refuse to accept toxic or draining dynamics in your network. Curate your connections to only include those that are mutually fruitful, respectful, and growth-oriented.
We'll leave you with a final provocative thought, something you can use as an annual metric for your personal and professional improvement.
There are 2 simple questions you should ask yourself every single year to measure your trajectory of progress. Because true, sustained progress depends on that synergy of knowledge and meaningful human connections.
The first question, how many books did you read this year? This measures your intellectual growth, your capacity for new ideas.
And the second question, how many new, significant, high-value relationships did you successfully build this year? This measures your intentional network growth and your strategic capacity. We really hope this deep dive encourages you to be bolder, more deliberate, and profoundly more strategic in cultivating your network starting today.